welcome to How to Fix It. So recently in a film history class, during the class where we discussed blockbusters, we watched a little sci-fi horror film called Alien, directed by Ridley Scott. You might have heard of it. It was the first time I saw the movie, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. And for those of you who are gasping that I hadn't seen Alien until recently, allow me to explain. Alien is billed as a sci-fi horror film, and I just don't like horror, so it stayed off my radar until I was forced to watch it. And I'm happy I did. It was a fantastic film, and definitely one of the classics of not only sci-fi and horror, but of cinema in general. Naturally, after watching it, people were telling me that I had to watch the sequel, and so I tracked it down. Alien 2, On Earth, which presumably tells the story of Ripley's return to Earth following the events of the first film. No, of course it's not that simple. It's an Italian rip-off sequel made before the name was trademarked. It has absolutely no connection to the Ridley Scott film, and yet it's somehow better than Alien vs. Predator Requiem. Go figure. And I know that you're probably thinking that Italian rip-off horror movies aren't usually my wheelhouse, and you would be right. That's actually kinda why I picked it. I wanted to do something to tie into Alien Covenant, and so I could have an excuse to talk about Alien because I just saw the movie. But I feel like I've been too safe and predictable lately, so I picked something weird that will be a challenge to fix. Anyway, let's see if the Italians are better at making sequels to Alien than the people who made Alien Resurrection. This is Alien 2, On Earth. So the movie naturally doesn't center around any elements from Alien, so no Ripley, no xenomorphs, and no chestbursters coming out of John Hurt. The film centers around a space capsule returning to Earth, but it's missing the astronaut that's supposed to be in it. Wait a minute, if this ends like Monster A Go-Go, I'm gonna be pissed. While discussing caves on television, a woman, Thelma, has a psychic vision, which isn't really explained all that well, but the gist of it is that she sees something that distresses her. Thelma, her husband Roy, and their friends Phil, Jill, Maureen, Cliff, and Bert prepare for an expedition into a cave, and on the way they stop and Thelma walks onto a beach and looks around, screaming when a young girl walks off away from her mother. Another vision. The girl finds a pulsating blue stone and goes off with it. Oh, it's a resonating rock. The aliens are Romulans. Hey, if she gets 9 more of those, she can trade them in for 30 Romulan marks. Later, the girl is found by her mother with her face torn off. Yeah, instead of face huggers, this movie has face bursters. Neat. They get to the cave, get into their gear, and in regards to this part of today's movie, I'm just going to say, cave repelling. Cave repelling? Cave repelling. Anyway, they go down into the cave and Bert finds one of the blue rocks. They set up at the bottom for the night and Thelma has another vision, which Roy calms her down from. The next day they wake up and Jill finds Bert's rock, and the rock turns out to be an egg, which hatches, releasing a creature that attacks Jill. Thelma sees it happen and sees that it attacked Jill's face and rushes to get the others, who follow her back to find Jill at the bottom of a hole, unconscious but alive, with no injury to her face. Roy goes down to investigate Jill and prep her body so they can get her out of the cave and to a hospital, but like in Ridley Scott's Alien, something is up, and when they get ready to get out of there, a creature bursts from her face and attacks Phil, knocking him off a cliff and slicing his head off as he hangs by his feet. They run like hell and try to find another way out, but there's no dice. Bert and Maureen get killed after they split up, and Cliff goes off to find them, leaving Thelma and Roy alone. Cliff is killed, but the alien shapeshifts into his form, because the aliens are also the Thing now. He returns, but Thelma can tell it's not him because of her vague psychic powers, and then this happens.
Exploding chewing gum, only $9.95.
Nah, I'm just kidding. It's her vague psychic powers at work again. Thelma and Roy escape the cave and head back to the city to find it deserted. While checking a bowling alley for people, Roy is killed, and Thelma runs off alone in the city shouting for help, before she gives up and sits down crying. The film ends with text appearing on the screen that says, "You may be next," which seems to be implying that the aliens took over the entire planet. I gotta admit, the premise is actually pretty interesting. Taking into account its non-connection to the Ridley Scott movie, the movie's basic plot is Monster A-Go-Go, but done right. A capsule returns to Earth and aliens attack is a cliché premise, but there's a reason that everyone uses it, because if done right, it can be really good. So Ciro Ippolito using that premise for the story isn't inherently a bad thing. The bad is in the execution. Another positive, at least in my book, that I noticed was shades of Italian neorealism in the opening credits. Those driving scenes reminded me of a lot of stuff in Italian neorealist films like Rome Open City and Umberto D. I mean, the whole thing with Italian neorealism is movies made on a shoestring budget, so similar techniques in this movie sort of work and actually kind of legitimize the movie. And while I can't get a gauge on the acting because of the dubbing isn't bad. I've certainly seen worse. It's not great, but it at least matches the personality that the acting is giving off. The voices seem to be coming out of the characters and don't feel out of place, or like the actor and dubber are giving completely different emotions. The music is also interesting. It's not bad, and it has a sort of sci-fi computer-generated feel. Other than that, there's not a whole lot that works. I'm here to talk to you about a scourge to society not seen since the likes of Reefer Madness. Commercial breaks, and they can be triggered with such simple phrases as "we'll be right back." One just happened and you couldn't even stop it, but you can help contribute to the elimination of ads by becoming a member of the BlackScarabFilmZ Patreon and see videos a full day before anyone else. The execution of the story is crap. The movie is very distracted as to what story it wants to tell. We start with the astronauts, and then while everyone is talking about it, Thelma is going to be on a talk show to talk about caves. That can't wait until after the cool space thing is over. And speaking of Thelma, we never get an explanation of her psychic visions, apart from a brief bit where she's advised to hide them like everyone else does. Because everyone else is also psychic? I don't know. Back to the story, it's sort of like Suicide Squad. It's uneven in tone. I mean, we get the little girl's face being torn off by the alien at the 22-minute mark, and then it's just cave rappelling for 15 minutes before anything interesting happens again. I mean, breaks in the action are okay, but don't blow your big face burster reveal and then do another reveal after 15 minutes of boring cave stuff like we've forgotten about it. It's like the movie forgot that it already did the big reveal. I get that the characters didn't know, but then why show us? It's not dramatic irony, because we know from the start of the movie that it's gonna be an alien, because the title tells us that. The title is literally Alien on Earth. What's with the shocking reveal that, oh man, the rocks are actually alien eggs? Anyone with a working brain cell can figure that out. There's also the issue that the effects are crap, but I'm not gonna make a big deal about it because it's an Italian rip-off movie, so naturally the budget was small. The characters are also way too underdeveloped. We know basically nothing about most of them, and the ones that we do know about, we just know basic stuff, like how one of them likes to write by candlelight so that he can burn the crap he writes down when he decides it's bad instead of throwing it away. I would tell you which character did that, but I honestly cannot recall his name. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Roy, but I don't know if it was Cliff or Bert, since none of the characters are distinct. I honestly didn't realize that there were 3 female characters in the movie, and I was thrown for a loop when Jill got attacked, but there was still another woman walking around besides Thelma. Even for a low-budget movie, I shouldn't be able to forget that your characters exist. You don't need a budget for that. That's just writing, man. Hey, maybe that typewriter by candlelight method was how Ippolito wrote the movie, and he accidentally burned all the pages that had character development and backstories. And of course, there's the ending, which is kind of a cop-out. I mean, all it is a woman running around an empty city. Yeah, everyone's dead, but Alien ended with Ripley defeating the Queen Xenomorph, and it was a triumph. This ending was sort of bleak. I'm happy it wasn't Monster A Go-Go, but it needed a little something to punch it up. Now, I bet by this point you're wondering, how the hell is he gonna do it? How can he fix this movie? And I will, in a moment. The entire reason that I picked this movie was because of the challenge. Like I said last week, things that are notorious for being bad can be fixed with just a few changes, and I wanted to put that theory to the test, so let's do it. For starters, I'd revamp the story. Leave out that bit with the girl and wait until Jill's attack for the reveal, because it would work so much better that way. The big reveal in Alien was the chestburster scene, and it's not like it was one of the survivors of the crashed ship. It was John Hurt, an established person, so Ippolito should have followed Scott's example. Don't blow the reveal that early on. In addition, I'd have added some development in for the characters. Maybe instead of going straight into the cave rappelling, I'd have used the time that they spent on the little girl and would have used it to give some character development, and make the group unique and distinct so that I'll remember who's who. And naturally, we get to the ending. Just you maybe next? Not gonna kill off Thelma in a spectacular way to show the gravity of the situation? Or maybe have her get surrounded by aliens and end on them closing in on her? There were a billion ways to end this movie on a more satisfactory note. Hell, I would have accepted it if they made the entire movie a psychic vision from Thelma, and it just ended on her screaming as she realizes that the Earth is doomed. It would have still been a bit of a cop-out, but at least it would have been a nice payoff to her visions. What I'm saying is that even as a crappy Italian ripoff movie, it has potential to be a decent movie. Not blockbuster level, but if it was like that, I'd at least consider watching it outside of this review. And that was Alien 2, On Earth. Was it bad? Well, yeah, but it's not unsalvageable. I mean, for an Italian ripoff movie, it's one of the better ones that I've seen. It was interesting, and I at no point desired to turn it off and watch something else. It managed to keep my attention for the entire runtime, which is an accomplishment. It's not a good sequel to Alien, but as a standalone, it works fairly well and tells a unique enough story that I can firmly say that it deserves to exist. It could have been way better, though. What we got wasn't terrible, but it's not a classic. For what it was, an Italian ripoff movie, it did its job, but as a film, it's not very good. But, with a few changes, some character development, and a better ending, Alien 2 could have been a rival for James Cameron's Aliens. Well, maybe I wouldn't go that far. Anyway, that's all the time we have for today. If you'd like to see more of how to fix it, you can hit that subscribe button. And if you have any comments or complaints about the video, you can put those in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed this video, show it to your friends and share it around the internet. And maybe consider supporting the show on Patreon. See you next time. What are these doing in here?